What's poppin', chat? How's it going, everybody? Hope all you are doing great. We had yet another exciting week of Delusionals Dynasty football, concluding week 5 of our dynasty. We'll get right into it. We'll do it like we've been doing it. Start with the breakdowns. Firstly, the game of the week breakdown, then jump to the rest of the games breakdowns. Look at the power rankings as we do have a little bit of shuffling this week, and then we'll get to the week 6 game of the week coming up. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. We start this week's breakdowns with the game of the week as Wade's Bowling Green Falcons start their action against in-state rival Ohio. Wade opens the game up, moving out of the pocket, waiting for someone to get open before finally hitting a nice 30-yard pass downfield to set up a nice drive that he then caps off with an inside zone from 4 yards out to get the first points of the game. Next, he hits a nice comeback route where unfortunately his receiver came out of the end zone to make the catch, but he gets a nice toe tap inside the 3 to set the Falcons up for another score. We then jump to him hitting a nice swing route to his back, who then makes a few defenders miss with some nice moves to help the Falcons take the 20-0 lead. And then we see Forverts right before the half where his tight end makes the snag after the safety overcommits for the 80-yard bomb and the 27-0 lead at that. Then we see one last go route as time expires where the wideout burnt the corner to add insult to injury, and the Bowling Green Falcons take advantage of being game of the week and absolutely pummel the Ohio Bobcats 33-3 and move themselves to 2-2 on the year. Then we jump over to Krish's Sun Devils of Arizona State, who unfortunately go down 41-25 to the West Virginia Mountaineers. This was ASU's first loss of the season and knocks them to 3-1 on the year. Let's hope they can bounce back as they move more into conference play. Then we head to Tulsa as Nick's North Texas team goes on the road to play the Golden Hurricanes. The Mean Green continued their trend of ball control football as they took the win 36-10 while nearly doubling Tulsa in both total yards and time of possession. North Texas just keeps winning and this moves them to 5-0 on the year. Next, we head down to Texas as Ben's Rice Owls host the FCS Midwest Coyotes. We start the highlights with Heisman frontrunner Dean Connors in the Wildcat, but hickory dickory I smell some trickery as it is a reverse pass and the Owls QB ends up with the ball in his hands and a wide open receiver in the end zone. Then we see none other than Dean Connors taking the direct snap again, but taking it himself 75 yards for the huge touchdown and the 21-6 lead for Rice. Next, we see another Wildcat play, but this time, Dean Connors hits the play fake and rolls out for a nice touchdown pass on the day as well. The Owls end up taking this one 59-13 and catch themselves at 5-0. The American Conference sure is heating up as we have 2 undefeated teams in that conference going into week 6. Next, we head down the road to Waco as Jacob's Baylor Bears hope to continue soaking up the wins against the BYU Cougars. Unfortunately, the Bears took their first loss of the season 41-24. The Cougars put up 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter for the win and to ruin Jacob's perfect season. Then we head up to ECU as Tyler's UAB Blazers go on the road against the Pirates. We started off with the Blazers QB scrambling from 2 yards out to take the 7-0 lead. Next, we see Tyler's QB scramble again to draw the safety down and hit a wide open wideout in the end zone for the 14-0 lead. Then after a Pirate TD, the Blazers head back down the field and hit the running back in the flat, who manages to hold on to the pass while getting blown up at the goal line to take the 21-7 lead. Now we see another great play by the QB as he scrambles since no one is open and gets in the end zone while taking a shot to take the 35-14 lead. And finally, the Blazers punch it in from 2 out to seal the game at 42-14 and jump to 4-1 on the year. Now we check in on Cameron W's Rams of Colorado State as they host the San Diego State Aztecs in a conference game. Cameron's boys go home with the 49-33 win and jump to 4-0 on the year. Next, we jump to Jeff's Stanford Cardinal as they host the Pitt Panthers. We open the highlights as Jeff's wideout gets a nice toe drag touchdown in the back of the end zone to take the 28-23 lead going into half. And then we see Jeff's boys line up from one out and get some major air to go up and over to take the 55-33 win and advance to 3-0 on the year. Then we have another FCS game this week as Austin's Monarchs host the FCS Northwest Sharks. Old Dominion handily took care of business with a final of 63-24 and jumped to 3-1 on the season. Next up, we check on Chet's Indiana Hoosiers as they head to Maryland. Luckily, he didn't get highlights of this game, as the uniforms are enough to hurt anybody's eyes up there in Maryland. Chet and his boys took the win, though, 50-29, and get back on winning track to get to 4-1 on the season. We only had one bye week this week, as Seth's Vandy Commodores get a nice breather before going into more SEC play. And finally, we get to the last game of the week, as the FIU Panthers look to start conference play 2-0 against the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs. We start with a nice corner route that the Panthers wide receiver mosses the La Tech DB and takes it downfield to the 2, where he sets up the FIU running back to punch it in for a 7-0 lead. Next, we see the Panthers in scoring position, but they throw a pick on the goal line to ruin that scoring chance. Then after the Bulldogs start rolling, the Panthers start to bounce back with a nice catch in the back of the end zone to cut the deficit 17-14. And finally, at the end of the third quarter, the Panthers punch in a 1-yard touchdown to get the lead back, and they never looked back, taking down the La Tech 38-20 and getting to 4-1 on the year. Now let's get into the power rankings of week 5. We had some shifts in the power rankings this week as we had 2 losses to high-ranked teams. Our new first place team is Rice, as the Owls are still a perfect 5-0 and can't seem to be stopped. They take the spot after the Baylor Bears lost this week, dropping them out of the undefeated teams. Second now is North Texas. They have quality wins, and even though they aren't putting up insane scores, they keep winning and against some good teams, so they deserve this spot. This also puts 2 American teams in the top spots. That conference will be very interesting for the rest of this season. Third is Stanford. The Cardinal have only played 3 games this season, but being without a loss and their dominant performance week 1 keeps them above the last undefeated squad. And fourth is CSU. The Rams are the last of the undefeated teams as they are still 4-0. They have the fewest big wins on the year out of the top 4, but they still haven't taken a single loss, so they round out the undefeated teams. Fifth now is Indiana, moving up from the 7th spot. Like I said last week, user games outweigh most other criteria for me, and Chet is the only one-loss team with a user game win. Sixth now is last week's number 1, Baylor. The Bears' disappointing loss dropped them to middle of the pack, but there is still plenty of season to go for them to get back on the top. 7th is Old Dominion. The Monarchs won again this week, and with ASU losing this week, it bumps them up as well as the other teams behind them. UAB is now 8th. This is for the same reason as above, as the Blazers won this week, and ASU losing bumps them up 1 more spot. 9th is FIU. FIU is the other team to play in that user game against Chet, and while I won't penalize a team too much for a close user loss, like I said last week, I'm going to be harsher on myself, so there is no argument for bias. But I'm the second to last one-loss team. ASU now takes the 10th spot, as the loss dropping them to 3-1 this past week was enough to sway me to drop them this far. I know I said I'd put myself lower, but them losing recently plus them having 1 less win makes me want to put them at 10th below FIU. Even though Vandy had a bye week, they still hold the 11th spot because it's hard to punish them for a loss to the number 1 team in the nation. And lastly, rounding it out at 12 is Bowling Green. They did win this past week to start off conference play 1-0 and get to the same 2-2 as Vandy above them, but their 2 losses are unfortunately not to as high of ranked teams as the Commodores are. And that concludes this week's power rankings. Tune in next time to see how they shift as the season goes on. The last segment we have is the game of the week. Each week we will select 1 game to highlight for the upcoming week and get some quotes from the coach on their expectations. This week we have a big one as the North Texas Mean Green look to continue their win streak against Fresno State. We reached out to North Texas's offensive coordinator Hugh Janus to see what he had to say about his upcoming matchup. Well, I think it's safe to say no one expected us to be sitting at 5-0 except for the guys in our locker room. The guys bought into the system I've put in place, and with a guy like Chad Morris coming over from TCU, I knew we'd have a shot at some folks. The kid's scrappy, he doesn't put up eye-popping numbers, but he gets the X's and O's. Got a big game this week against Fresno State, so our focus has been on them. Looking forward to popping some pads and trying to get bowl eligible. Let's hope that the Mean Green can continue this win streak and, keep it up, because if we get to the end of the season, it could make it very interesting if we have two American teams playing against each other undefeated. And that'll conclude the video. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. I really appreciate it. Love all the support that I've been getting on the videos. Please continue to tune in, like, subscribe. Check out the streams. I'm streaming here on YouTube and on Twitch whenever I'm playing the game. So make sure you're tuning in, subscribe, and follow me over there too, so that you can get notifications when I go live. Also check out the Sports Scramble Media boys and also Big ZD. Both of them have been streaming